You paid good money for your boat. You rigged it up, loaded the truck, and headed out on the water feeling like you had everything handled. Then, the cover pooled water and tore at the seam after 2 months. The clamp-on rod holder loosened up, and your favorite rod slid across the deck on the first hard turn. The bilge pump you grabbed off the discount shelf ran for about 20 minutes before it stopped working entirely. And that fancy wireless remote spotlight you bolted onto the bow? It fogged up, started flickering, and you haven't touched it since last spring. This is the part of boat ownership nobody talks about enough. Everyone covers the big purchases: the motor, the hull, the trailer, the fish finder. But the accessories? That is where a lot of anglers quietly bleed money, one bad decision at a time. You buy something that looks useful, it performs poorly, you replace it, and the cycle repeats. Hit subscribe before we get into it. If you want honest, practical advice about what is actually worth putting on your boat and what you are better off skipping, this channel is where you should be spending your time. I'm Jerry Davis, and I've spent enough time around boats, tackle shops, and rigging tables to know when something is genuinely useful and when it is just taking up space on your deck or draining your bank account before you ever get to the ramp. Today, we are going through 7 boat accessories that consistently waste time and money for anglers. Some of these are products people buy once and never touch again. Some are things that actually create new problems on the water. And a few are things where spending a little more upfront or skipping the product entirely would have saved a lot of frustration down the road. By the end of this, you will know which accessories deserve your money, which ones you should pass on completely, and what to look for when you do decide to buy. Let's get into it. The first one is the generic fit boat cover. And I want to be clear about something right away. A good boat cover is absolutely worth buying. Protecting your boat from UV, rain, bird debris, and dust is not optional if you care about the interior, the upholstery, and the electronics. The problem is not the concept. The problem is the cheap universal fit covers that show up everywhere from discount shelves to big box outdoor retailers, priced somewhere between $40 and $90 with a photograph of a clean fishing boat on the packaging. Here is what happens with those covers in the real world. They are not cut for your hull. They use elastic hems and a handful of straps to cinch down a piece of fabric that was designed to loosely approximate the shape of several hundred different boat styles at once. That means there will be low points where water collects. When rain hits, you are not shedding water off the surface. You are building pockets. Those pockets add weight, stretch the fabric, and create the exact kind of damp, stagnant environment that accelerates mildew growth on everything underneath. The stitching on cheaper covers tends to go first, usually at the stress points around the windshield or along the bow. And once water starts getting under the cover, instead of running off it, you almost wish you had left the boat uncovered entirely. A properly fitted, boat-specific cover costs more. Depending on the hull size and style, you might spend $200 to $400 for a quality semi-custom or full custom option. That sounds like a lot compared to the $60 generic version. But when you factor in the cost of replacing faded upholstery, cleaning up mildew on carpet or foam, or dealing with water intrusion around any electronics that were not fully sealed, the cheap cover is the more expensive decision over time. If your boat sits outside year-round, this is one place where buying correctly the first time matters. Check the manufacturer or specialty marine suppliers for covers built to your hull style and length before you reach for the discount version. The second accessory that wastes money is the undersized or no-name bilge pump. A lot of anglers are not thinking much about their bilge pump until they need it, which is the exact wrong time to discover it was the wrong choice. The bilge pump is one of those boat components that lives out of sight and rarely comes up in conversation until something goes wrong. People tend to grab whatever is on the shelf, check that it is rated for their hull size on paper, and assume it is covered. The issue is that pump ratings are almost always given under ideal conditions. A pump rated for 700 gallons per hour does not mean it will move 700 gallons per hour with 8 feet of hose, a couple of bends, and a float switch that has been sitting in standing water for 2 seasons. Real-world output on most small bilge pumps drops significantly from the advertised number once you account for the actual plumbing configuration on the boat. Cheap float switches are another consistent failure point. They stick, they corrode, they fail to trigger when water starts rising. And the only way you know the pump is not working is when the water level is already a problem. For most fishing boats, in the 14 to 20 1-foot range, anglers consistently report better results spending the extra $30 to $50 on a pump from a company with a solid marine reputation and matching it with a quality automatic float switch that you replace every few seasons than waiting for it to fail. Rule, Atwood, and a handful of other established marine brands have track records in this category. The specific model matters less than buying from a company that designs these components for actual marine conditions, with corrosion-resistant materials and float switches built to operate reliably over time. This is not a place to save $20. The third item is clamp-on rod holders. I understand the appeal. You have an open spot on the gunnel or the side of the console. You want a couple of extra rod positions, and a set of adjustable clamp-on holders seems like a quick, easy, and removable solution. For very light use, occasional outings, or situations where you genuinely cannot drill into the surface, they work at a basic level. But for anyone using them as a primary rod storage solution on a moving boat, the problems show up fast. Clamp-on holders rely on friction and mechanical pressure to stay in position. On a flat, calm lake at low speed, that is usually fine. Once you add any combination of boat movement, rod weight, vibration, and a heavier reel, that clamp starts to creep. Rods shift, tip down, and end up rattling or sliding across the deck. The contact points between the clamp and the gunnel can also leave marks on finished surfaces over time, particularly if grit or debris gets between the clamp and the rail. The plastic versions wear out quickly. Even the metal ones develop play in the adjustment joints after regular use. Flush mount rod holders installed directly into the gunnel or console are more secure, cleaner looking, and more durable. The installation takes maybe an hour with basic tools, and the result is a holder that actually holds the rod where you put it, regardless of how the boat is moving. If you are uncomfortable drilling into your hull, that is a reasonable concern, and there are a few good rail mount systems designed for T-tops and rod racks that use proper mounting hardware rather than friction clamps. Either way, the clamp-on version as a permanent rigging solution on a working fishing boat tends to create more frustration than it resolves. The fourth accessory worth questioning is the cheap marine-branded battery maintainer or multi-stage charger that uses automotive specs under a nautical label. This one is less obvious. You walk into a marine retailer or scroll through an online listing, you see a charger that says Marine Battery Maintainer on the front. It costs about $25, and it seems like the responsible choice for keeping your trolling motor batteries or starting battery healthy during storage. The concern is that not all chargers sold as marine products are designed with the actual demands of marine battery maintenance in mind. Lithium batteries, AGM batteries, and standard flooded lead-acid batteries have different charging profiles. A basic charger that does not recognize which battery type it is connected to can either undercharge and allow sulfation to develop, or overcharge and damage the battery over time. Some of the cheaper single-stage units do not properly maintain a battery in float mode either, meaning they cycle the battery unnecessarily during long storage periods. Anglers consistently report better battery longevity when using a proper multi-stage smart charger that matches the battery chemistry they are using. Brands like Noco, Battery Tender, and Minn Kota's onboard charger line have established reputations in this category, and their products are available in a wide range of configurations for single or multiple banks. The price difference between a cheap charger and a quality unit is real, but it is far smaller than the cost of replacing a bank of trolling motor batteries that were damaged by improper charging over 2 or 3 seasons. The fifth item is the decorative or gimmicky LED lighting kit that gets added to a fishing boat for aesthetics rather than function. And look, I am not saying interior accent lighting is a bad idea across the board. If you fish at night, proper lighting below the gunnel can help you see your tackle, manage your lines, and move around the boat safely in the dark. That is a legitimate use. What wastes money is the multicolor RGB kit with a wireless controller, a remote that gets waterlogged after one trip, adhesive strips that peel off fiberglass and aluminum surfaces within a season, and color-changing modes that have nothing to do with fishing and everything to do with how the boat looks in a parking lot. Anglers buy these, install them, fight with the adhesive and the controller, and end up either removing them or ignoring them entirely. The strips themselves can also cause cosmetic issues when they fail and leave adhesive residue that is difficult to remove from gel coat. If you want functional lighting on your boat, look at sealed, waterproof LED strips rated for actual marine use, white or red to preserve night vision, with proper mounting hardware rather than stick-on tape. The functional version is not dramatically more expensive. It just requires a few minutes more to install correctly, and it actually holds up to the environment your boat operates in. The sixth accessory that drives me nuts is the oversized, overbuilt anchor kit for the type of fishing the person is actually doing. Here is what I mean. There is a version of anchor overkill where someone spends $250 on a heavyweight mushroom or fluke anchor setup for a 14-foot aluminum boat. They fish in 5 feet of water on calm inland lakes. The anchor itself weighs twice what is needed. The chain is longer than necessary, and the whole rig takes up storage space that is already limited on a small hull. On the other side of that, there are anglers fishing larger boats with anchors and rods that are genuinely undersized for the conditions, which creates a different but equally costly problem when the anchor drags and the boat moves into cover or structure you were trying to stay on. The waste here comes from buying the wrong size and type of anchor for the specific hull and conditions, rather than overspending versus underspending on anchors as a category. The right anchor selection depends on the bottom type, water depth, typical wind and current conditions, and the size and weight of the boat. A Danforth-style fluke anchor works well in sand and mud, but does not hold as reliably in rocky or grassy bottoms. A grapnel anchor handles rock better, but is awkward to store and set in soft bottoms. Getting matched to the actual conditions you fish in matters more than buying the most expensive option on the rack. Ask at a reputable marine shop, give them your hull weight and your typical fishing conditions, and buy accordingly. You will probably spend less and get better results than reaching for whatever looks substantial on the shelf. The seventh item is the wireless or Bluetooth boat accessory that requires an app, a subscription, or constant connectivity to function, and that nobody checks or maintains until it causes a problem. This covers a range of products, including certain wireless depth alarm systems, some Bluetooth-enabled bilge sensors, app-dependent anchor alarms, and various smart boat gadgets marketed to anglers as safety or convenience tools. The concept is not inherently bad. An anchor alarm that warns you when the boat has drifted outside a set radius can be genuinely useful, and there are well-made versions of that product. The issue is with the cheap or poorly supported versions that seem useful in the store and then run into problems in the real world. App connections drop. Notifications fail to push. Battery life on the sensor unit is shorter than advertised. The app stops receiving updates and eventually becomes incompatible with your phone's operating system. The company that made the product stops supporting it, and now you have a sensor zip-tied to your console that does nothing. Before buying any wireless, app-dependent marine accessory, look at whether the manufacturer has an established history of software support, whether the product functions independently if the phone connection fails, what the battery or power requirements are, and whether the reviews reflect long-term real-world reliability rather than just first-week impressions. The best boat safety tools are the ones that work without a software update, without a phone nearby, and without 4 troubleshooting steps before they function the way they are supposed to. Simplicity and reliability matter more on the water than features that look impressive in a product listing. Here is the honest takeaway. Boat accessories can absolutely improve your time on the water. The right rod holders, a quality cover, a reliable bilge pump, and proper charging equipment are not luxuries. They protect your investment and reduce the kind of frustration that makes a fishing day feel like a maintenance day. The problem is that the marine label on a product does not automatically mean it was designed for marine conditions, tested under real-world use, or worth what it costs. A lot of what gets sold as boat gear is regular consumer hardware with a slight price markup and packaging that shows a wave. Think about what your boat actually needs. Buy the components that directly protect the hull, the electrical system, or your safety first. Replace them correctly when they fail, rather than reaching for whatever is cheapest on the shelf. And give serious thought before adding accessories that require ongoing maintenance, app support, or complicated installation for a benefit that may not show up in the kind of fishing you actually do. Let me know in the comments which of these you have run into. I guarantee at least a couple of them are already on somebody's boat right now, either working badly or sitting unused and taking up space that could hold another rod or a cooler. Hit like, subscribe, and share this with somebody heading to a boat show or a marine retailer before they talk themselves into 3 things they do not need. I'm Jerry Davis, and I'll catch you in the next one.